keep this recording for her. So both of you, I really need you to get everybody to spice up to learn, and then I will just come alongside to add whatever that I felt that might be useful for the learning. Will that be okay? Good, good. Wow, Evan and Angeline, you can engage the students in this room. We will not go to the breakout rooms.
And is it also okay if we could ask you a few questions?
Oh, sure, no problem.
Yes.
I'll ask Evan to help me if I
Okay.
get a little bit stuck. Go for it, Angeline.
I was wondering. I had a question myself, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has questions. There was something I thought I noticed what you were doing, and I just wanted to check that with you, Ben. So with this workplace coaching, I've seen you now doing it a few times, and it feels to me that you start out when you start the conversation, you keep it deliberately a little bit more on the situation, and you go to the who of the clients, so to the feelings and experience, you go a little bit later. And I was wondering whether I picked that up right, and if that is correct. Okay, if that is correct, I was wondering what your thinking behind that is. What is the reason you do it, and do you only do this with the work conversations, or is this something you now are trying out with every conversation you have?
Well, Angeline, I need to. Ooh. I think that's the power of a live coaching session like this, where you get to see the I want to where you get to see what is it. You get to see it in the real life, and that is the adaptation that is needed from classroom learning to real life context. For I mean, I started off as a consultant and being very heavily invested in organizations. So I do know a great deal of, the dynamics that is involved in this contour, right? So, and as I move on to become a psychologist or get to learn a little bit more on the dynamics, then I realized that for change to penetrate into such a systems, we need to use its existing contour first. Because this is not personal. Okay, of course it is personal, but it's never personal because it is an interconnectedness between me and a bigger whole, a community, a society, a greater part is involved. So henceforth, it's very difficult in this kind of context to find the who as an individual component. Well, you might be arguing but in a personal coaching, doesn't that have a situation? No. In transitional coaching with an individual dealing with their own transitions, we only have two, me and my transition. Right? But in a workplace context, not just me and my issue, it's me and my issue in the context of other people's issue and in a bigger operating system. Phew. It's very difficult for the mind to anchor on a me in this complex dynamics. So it would be much easier to begin first with whatever the context is, and from there find an opportunity where we can see where the interactions that need to be where the issue lies in this complex system. So yes, situation first has to be bearing in mind in workplace context, but from the situations, I would like to identify two other components, two other elements. The issue. Now the issue now has a lot of layers. Issue at hand is different from the real issue. And the real issue is different from the underlying issue. And as you can see, as you go deeper, there are deeper layers of consciousness that is required for you to penetrate what is the issue at hand, what's the real issue, and then what might be an underlying issue. And this requires that layering of the consciousness and also for individual to get in there. And it's not easy because you're trapped in this bigger system where the mind constantly look at, what's the organization expectation, what's my responsibility, what this person has said, and blah, blah, blah. So that voice, is constantly interrupting the, the ability for the clients to be able to break into these, to break into these different layers. So henceforth, it requires more for the coach to really master the system of the transformative approach of what is it that you're observing, and to be very steady to bring out, okay, look, these are the 3 points here. Okay, you know what I mean? And when that is very clearly articulated, it kind of like gives the mind a certain concrete structure to hold on to. If not otherwise, it will be falling prey to all the noises like, this is my responsibility, this is what the person says, which arose maybe frustrations and angers and whatever that is, you see. So the ability to lock down the 3 concrete point brings objectivity to the mind. And that's the, I won't want to say, but based on my own little experiment, it looks like objective reality is the key to stable the mind in this workplace context, recognizing that it is relatively different from coaching an individual, like, oh, I want to be a better manager. Right. So today is that I want to be a better manager, coupled with the fact that I'm dealing with an issue and it's impacting my roles and I'm in this organization. And, so it's kind of like a little bit, I'm not sure, am I explaining it clear enough? But yes, you're right. The science is to get to the situation, to situational context, to bring awareness to what's the issue at hand, establish objectivity, and then from there, we'll see how it goes. Good. Okay, I'm losing. I'm confusing people again. I can see the silence in the room. Somebody please break the silence. Say something.
I didn't find that you confused the situation. I thought you made it very clear.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I think that's my listening face
Thank you,
early in the
Jenna, for
morning.
the encouragement.
But it is interesting. I would like to just follow on that. I don't have any experience of corporate, only in education, but I wonder, excuse me, whether you find that your client really needs you to hear her creating the context, just because then she'll feel more secure that you will understand where she's coming from more. Because when I've seen you coach outside the corporate context and you haven't gone for so much situational background, I've been interested, but now I'm beginning to understand that you don't need that contextual situational background, because actually what you're listening to is listening for is how people are thinking, and then you're going to help them with the transition through their thinking.
Yes.
But what you've just explained is why you let the person have more context building time at the beginning.
You got it. So the technical word, no, not the technical word, the science behind it is called contextual awareness.
Yeah.
Right. For workplace, I find very, very needful. Number one, for a very good reason. Number one, we are coaching a manager around their duty and responsibility, and to a certain degree, is something external of their personal profile, persona, right? So henceforth, it's very risky to jump into the who of the client, like how we did it for most of the life coaching that you have seen, right? Because it's not that the client is unwilling, but it is a different game altogether. Right, we have to recognize this. So henceforth, the situation awareness of how am I seeing the bigger system becomes the key to give some stability to the mind of safety. Now, if we only reflect, oh, this is what you personally feel and personally think, then it triggers more irritation. because you only address one part of the system at the expense of the other two bigger system. Right? For a personal coaching space, it's only me and my situation. Of course, there are external party, but basically the mind is focusing on me and my situation. Right? So that's that different navigation that is needed to bring that the space to contain the mind. And that's where the clients feel more trust as being heard. Right? So that is a great degree of variation here, you know. So in a workplace coaching context, the ACC conversation, the awareness phase, the expanding the mind, will be expand the mind to capture the issue at hand, not the expression of goal. Okay, so watch out for the new program, yay, 2023. Okay, where we add all these nuances into the framework and kind of like customize that more to a workplace context. And that's why we deep dive into giving students a little bit more understanding around contextual awareness, issues at hand, real issue and underlying issue, and then just walk you through how the conscious mind protects itself. You know, so but once it doesn't feel that it's being attacked but being respected, then it actually opens up. Okay, yeah, I think it makes some sense down there. Yeah, I have taken a prudent approach, right? And I've made some decent you know, I need some information, right? So once that is being captured, you know, the client's mind naturally feel, yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, now I see it, right? So, but the skill set is still the same. Capture the essence. It's now capturing a different kind of essence. Does that make sense for all of you? Okay, like fishing, but fishing the different kind of fish. But it's still fish that we're trying to catch, but you're using a different hook and bait, you know, to lure the fish. Good. Good. Oh, you guys might be thinking, what? Coaching is so complex. It's not coaching is complex. It's human being being very complex. Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other further thoughts, Angeline, or maybe Evan, would you like to share pennies or thoughts here? Oh, then after that, we can go to Molly. Is that how I pronounce her name? Good. Okay, maybe Molly, you'll go first, and after that, maybe we have Evan to come in to contribute. Is that how I pronounce your name, Molly?
It's Moni.
Molly, go for it, Molly. Are you from the New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, I remember you saying the other day. Go for it, Molly.
So first we create that contextual situation for the client to feel safe, and how did you find the moment to actually make the focus to the client?
Yeah,
So
that was quite tricky. Yeah, that was quite tricky because that was where you and the client, but I'm really not sure where the conversation will go. Yeah, but all I need to know is I need to be just like in what you have learned in the class, we get hold of the expression of goals and we expand the expression of goals to get the focus of the conversation and we uncover it. Right? So today in workplace context, you just need to not say in workplace context, but let's just get rid of the workplace context. That will be a pattern in which the focus of the conversation is relatively clear. Because Evelyn and I have a conversation and we are pretty clear what this conversation is going to be about. It's about her having a perspective around managing the case. Of course, during the entry point of the coaching brief, she was wondering, you know, is there another angle of looking at things that I've forgotten? Right? But she has no full awareness and the kind of like emergent understanding of today's conversation, but at least the focus of the conversation is pretty clear, a new perspective. And you will see me doing something that rarely happens, and that is I give a summary of the coaching brief. Now, that is very important. Why? Just like a manager going for a meeting. What do you do before the meeting starts? If you,
Agenda.
yes, you set the agenda. Why do you set the agenda? Why do you need to tell everybody the agenda? You know,
Direct.
yes, you got the point. If you don't do that, very likely you will get people off the tangent very easily. Now, of course, you can always manage it by bringing it back to the focus again, but it is better to just set it at the beginning of the stage. This is what today is about. So back to our learning in the element, what is this all about? So what is this all about is now collecting together with the focus for today's conversation. And I took the first mover privilege, which means a little bit of politics here. That means I chopped the place first and say, good, this is what we're going to say based on your input, right? Because I came in and kind of like seal it this way, that this is about you managing this case and you want to have a perspective around it. Good, the case is sealed. Right? So the focus now the focus is determined in the coaching brief, which I think in most workplace contexts, we had to be quite firm with that to make sure that people come to the sessions having a very clear direction. We don't have to be very specific in terms of where it needs to, the outcome of it, but we need to know the general, what is this going to be about? Okay, now in some cases you may need to spend some time to support the client to gain clarity on what this is all about. But in this case, it's relatively very straightforward and clear that the clients know that this is about me getting a perspective. So the transformational approach comes when we support the client to gain the perspective and not how to do the actioning. Right? So now the manner in which, okay, what about this perspective that we need to explore further? That was when it been managed with my kind of like, okay, I need to look for the issue at hand, take a look at what's the issue at hand and see whether I can identify any real issue as a result of the contextual awareness opening up. So once the contextual awareness opens up, then it allows me to quickly zoom in or identify, is there any real issue? So from there, the real issue seems to suggest that there is a bit of the inference from the role that she's playing from the past and the present, and that piece was not clear enough for the clients at before the power of the conversation, but because of the space that is being opened up for her to reflect, and the client is willing to reflect, and the space is there for the clients, it supported the mind to enter into a deeper level. So it's not about just the process itself. We also need the client cooperation to allow the client to find their own understanding. But at least at the science framework, this is basically what it is. Situation awareness to open up to look for real issue, not necessary expression of goal. Because once the clients focus too much on the expression of goal, the outcome will be reinforced. Once the outcome comes into the awareness of the client's mind, it brings the clients out of his own space here. It goes into what expectation is, what the responsibility is, what the other person is talking about and reacting and blah, blah, blah. Can you see how the science works here? Good. So as long as I avoid the mind looking at the outcome, but looking at the real issue and support the clients to understand what's the contributing factor. So that's another layer of the science that is added. Now, going back to the core level, do you remember that we give you the two framework, the challenge framework and the problem framework? The challenge framework was something that we often use quite a lot in the what has worked for you, and what have you learned? But today you do see the challenge framework in part of the conversation. But I'm using the other set of the framework, which is what is currently supporting the thought or behavior or whatever that is. In other words, I'm looking for what's the contributing factor and not what's the cause of the issue. So you can see that the client is able to talk about something that contributed and not something that has caused the situation. Now, the difference between the two lies on the coach skillfulness to navigate your own thought process. Are you looking for the cause or are you looking for the contributing factors? Don't ask me how do I differentiate the difference because I have not figured that out yet. It seems like I'm able to do it, but I'm not able to teach it at this point of time. But in my mind, I'm very clear that these are two different dynamics. Okay, good. Okay, so looking for the contributing factors, once I'm able to identify that, okay, the contributing factors come from part of the past and your personality and what it does is just use the same framework that we have learned to allow the clients to learn something about what is emerging. So when we are doing the contributing factors, we are uncovering the understanding. So far, so good. So we're uncovering, not using the scaling technique. So we're using the contributing factors. Okay, and then checkpoint number 4 was being applied, invitation to discovery. Hey, as you were talking about this piece here, let's pause and reflect and see what we can draw out from it. Got it? So what is complex today is that I use the challenge framework to find the contributing factors. That means where are you right now in terms of these conversations? And as you look back, what is this that you can say? Okay. And then using that to support the clients to mine for the contributing factors. Good. Ooh. Good. We see that Mike has raised his hand. Mike, do you can go for it.
I was actually going to go all the way back to what you talked about before, because Anna Karine had actually targeted exactly what I was looking at. Is you're really focusing on the situation, but then it goes back to what Janet said as well about the whole interaction piece. The thing I found interesting, and I'm still trying to understand, is yes, you talked a bit about situation, but then you focused on the client.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand how you maintain that focus on the client. And I'm guessing it's some of the positive reinforcements you state when you see things about them, and you might say, wow, I see you've got a sound approach. I see you've got this from your past experience, but then at the same time, it's almost like causing instant reflection. You're using, what was the sentence you said? What is life teaching you right now about this situation? There was another one. Where are you right now? Are you centering them back to focus on themselves rather than the situation?
Yes, I think you got it there. There are no fixed way of how the system works, but just remember as concentric circles, right? So there's outer circle ring, there's inner circle rings. When you look at the outer circle ring, it doesn't mean that the inner circle ring doesn't exist, right? Like the tree trunk, the outer circle ring is just a way to say that this is my current age. But it doesn't mean that, but that the inner circle says that, well, I was a little young seedling tree before that now give this outer ring. You see, so it all comes, in one package. So if we can see things in this manner as a part or as a ring constituting to a, to the formation of the trunk, then we can actually travel in time to play with the various rings and see how each rings is going to inform each other. And that gives this conversation a much more a deeper dimension versus a normal way of linear, this is a past, this is a present, and this is a future, which is a very linear equation. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not as deep as you can see of, I can travel back in time, or I can travel back in a different domain. Oh, that's the outer ring. That's the outer ring about this incident. Let's go back to the inner ring right now. How is that teaching you as a person? Or so the clients actually use the outer ring then to zoom into the inner ring. Yeah, this is my life journey. Then you will be very, I mean, I'm not sure whether anyone caught it. I actually did not touch on anything that the client says about herself as being a high performance, or this is no expectation. And no, I'm just letting it go. Right? Because that is just the inner ring. And that inner ring has already been solidified. And in this moment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not to adjust the client's expectation, right? Because the client merely says, I want to have a perspective. And now in this moment, it's the space open up for the client to say, hey, that is this moment in which I have my part here of my expectation. But you need to remember, this is just only a moment in her time that this thing shows up. It doesn't define her in an absolute sense. So I'm able to kind of see that and say, this is a brief moment where awareness opens up for her. And the way to honor my client's integrity, that means to keep my clients whole and strong, is to simply accept it, right? And not to make any inquiry about that. So this gives the clients the dignity that, yeah, I was weak in that moment, or I have that little shadow in that moment. That's great. We talk about it. And now we are able to move on now, because now with the mind fills up with such a deep thought, we simply bring the clients back again and say, whoa, okay. Whew. We'll talk about that. So coming back to this focus, you wanted to have some perspective. So just want to find out any new perspective now. You know what I mean? So do you get the point here? That how it works?
It's very clear. And I talk because we're just starting the whole process, and I talked with the group and I shared with them yesterday about one of my experiences where it's just focusing on the client, and that was my whole focus rather than the situation. And it was a challenge because the whole time, and even during your session today, I'm thinking from a work mindset. I've got solutions. I know what she can do, and I thought, oh my gosh, I want to jump into that. It's just so easy. And then listening to how you connect the things together and progress, it actually helps things click.
Yes, and you got it. We never focus on the clients, not the situation technically. It's that relationship, the experience.
Cool.
You got the point, right? But from the core level training, we had to start somewhere first where everybody can manage, and then gradually manage the shift to, a deeper level. So before the training, most people are able to manage the situations, but they are not able to manage the client. That's the entry point, right? So we need to tackle that first to get that fixed for our students. Now focus on the client, focus on the client. Now, like any skill set, let's say we play golf. I mean, when you practice one technique, you had to kind of like, just forget about the other things that, the other skill set. You just have to focus on this one at this moment, right? But doesn't mean the other skill set is not important. No. At this point, let's just master this skill set first. But once you have the motor memory of this skill set, then we can move on to, okay, let's use this as a foundation to see whether you can do the next level. Right. So the
Okay,
core
that's
level
quite cool.
focus, focus the clients first. We kind of get our students at the core level to stop thinking about situation. which is a difficult job because a lot of students kind of like cry and say, but we're not adding values. Yes, you are, but maybe just give yourself some time first. Right. So, but once you get over not thinking too much on the situation, you're free to look at the client. But that's only what the core level offer you to get away from the situation. But it doesn't really give you a lot of power to look at the client, and that's where the second level comes in. But the second level will not have the impact if students refuse to look at the client. Right? But now you're ready to look at the client. That's where you feel that, hey, the core level is not enough. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's not useful. Right? I want to have a little bit more. That's where you are telling yourself, I'm ready for greater things, because now I can see that what is in front of me, and that's where students find greater value of using a transformational approach at the second level, because now they are given more tools and language and playrooms to work on the who. Then when you finish working on the who, that's where you kind of like, hey, it's not complete. That's where we can tell you, voila, it's neither the situation nor the client, is the experience. Oh, then you can combine your experience around coaching the situation, because you know this is how the dynamics works like in situational level. All of you who are manager can see the 3 pointers very clearly. Why? Because you know how to coach your clients around the situation, and you know the 3 pointers becomes more clear right now. Then now you got the who, and now you can play with the interaction. And so that's where the jumping between the rings becomes the next pursuit. Cool.
Thank you.
Whoa, we got great time. Whoa. Evan, in the last couple of moments, would you like to share some thoughts with our friends?
Yep, sure thing. One thing I want to just reiterate is that today is a great example of we are not trying to solve anything for our client.
Right.
And that's something at a core level, we get so excited. I want to move them forward. I want to get them to an action. I want to get them to do something about it, because that makes me feel like I've done something. Whereas here is a perfect demonstration of staying with the client moment to moment, allowing the client to see something that they're not aware of. And that's a process. It's not something that you're going to get straight away. And that's why you would have seen the first inquiry from Ben today was, so what is really the challenge here for you? Identifying what this is all about, identifying that issue first.
Yeah.
And then from there, then we went through the exploration of, okay, let's learn more about the current perspective.
Yes.
And then as she's describing the current perspective, again, we're uncovering the understanding, looking at everything of the contributing factors in that process. That happens if you're able to stay with the client in the moment, allowing to see what unfolds, instead of having an agenda that I need to get them to a focus, an outcome, accountability. So it's letting go of that and being present with your client moment to moment, and understanding that we do not need to know where exactly we are going, but just staying with them and offering what we hear and see through the bulleting. And you can see the bulleting here, the transformative principle number 2 and 3, the ability to frame before the inquiry. And what we frame is the structural layout, which you've all learned at the core level. So you can see how valuable it is in a way of bringing the client into that objectivity. And once the client was experiencing that objectivity to their own situation, that's when there was the shift.
Wow.
So that's a great reminder through this conversation.
Thank you, Evan. It makes it so clear. It's kind of like listen, yeah. So we need a lot of different voices to kind of like make it more clearer. So thank you, Evan. What I'm appreciating today is that when we look at the solution that the client, or the action step that the clients want to take, it's not that she doesn't have any idea. It's having the peace, having the confidence, having the resolute around this idea that she has. I think is the differentiator of giving people that resolute regarding what they want to, what action they want to take. So that's why in our CMA language, we call that being choiceful about what they want to act upon. Okay. And you can see that we're not compromising the end result. The clients at the end of this conversation had something really concrete, not only concrete, but being very firm and clear on the execution. Right? So that clarity of the execution is so precious. I think most leaders will appreciate, just if my top management can just tell me exactly what I need to do, then that would be right. It's not that they did not tell you what to do. It's that the clarity is like I can't see through things. I know what I need to do, but I just can't see through it. Right. So that's the most invaluable piece that a transformational approach can offer to our clients, based on whatever idea that they want to take. It's that clearing up the path in front of them to say, go and take the land. Right. So, well, thank you for the time, and I hope this is a bonus learning for all of you. And just remember, mastery is a progressive journey. Okay. And remember the core training, those who have completed the core training, at least the learning lab, my favorite anchor movie, check it on, check it off, check it on, check it off. Okay, for those who have not completed, just watch, stay till the end of the learning lab, okay, where we close the learning lab. And remember, check it on, check it off, check it on, check it off, building the fundamental, framing the content, understanding, reflecting it back in a very succinct manner, knowing exactly what you pay attention to are the fundamental skills. So with that, we'll see all of you again next week. Okay, for other live coaching demonstration that is not workplace related, so you get to eat some meat, not just salad. Okay, we have enough of beef today, so we'll go for salad next week. Okay, so a change of appetite will certainly make your learning more engaging. So with that, take care, everybody. Bye.